This time on Werner's Verly gigs, we're going totally bonkers. We're going to change the brake fluid in the BMW E92 3 Series Coupe while using a Vevor pneumatic power brake bleeder while using ISTA Plus, BMW's proprietary software. So let's jump in. I want you all to remember that I'm just another yokel who's not educated nor a professional in what I'm doing here, and it's possible that if you rely on this video, you, your project, or the both of you might end up as a smoldering hunk of hammered dog shit. Please use common sense, be careful, and always protect your ears, eyes, face, body, and hands when doing this type of work. With that, let's keep on trucking. This video may contain peanuts. Well, hey there, guys, gals, and ghouls. Happy Halloween. If only I could bring back Paul Rubens and his wonderful sense of humor to be with us here today. But there's plenty of it on the internet, thankfully. So, welcome to Werner's Whirligigs, or welcome back if you've been here before. I'm Werner, and a couple of weeks ago, my wife told me that there was a light in the car that meant some kind of maintenance was due. So I went and checked it out, and it turned out that the car needed an oil change. It needed the brake system flushed, the fluid replaced, and it also needed a vehicle check. So I've had this Vevor pneumatic brake bleeder sitting on the shelf now for about 4 or 5 months and haven't had a chance to use it yet. So I figured it would be a great time to take this thing out and take it for a whirl while working on the car. Also this year I was able to download and install ISTA Plus on my computer, my laptop. And if you're not familiar with ISTA Plus, it's BMW's proprietary software that they use at the dealer to diagnose your car, to research how to do repairs, to download codes, to tune certain aspects of the car. It stands for, and I'm going to have to read this, the Integrated Service Technical Application. That's a mouthful. I only can remember ISTA. So part of this video will be dedicated to using the ISTA Plus software to what it actually does is it vibrates the brake system. I'm not sure if it's the ABS unit or if it's the master cylinder or what, but it does that to help extract and push out bubbles from the system. Let me say, I am no ISTA pro. I am no ISTA pro. I gotta tell you, I am no ISTA pro. ISTA Plus isn't that difficult to use, but it is a pain in the butt to install. I don't know why. You have to hook up different ports and change some configurations, and there's system registry stuff. I'm okay with computers. I'm not that great, and I felt like it was just through sheer brute force of trying that I finally got it up and running. But please don't come asking me questions about ISTA because I'm not going to be able to help you with that. I feel like I'm just barely getting by myself. There are a number of places on the internet where you can find and download this software. It's obviously not being sold. You got to know where to look. And then, each of those downloads has its own special installation information. There isn't really one size fits all. There's a bunch of data that comes along with the package, and it's housed in different ways depending on which download you get. So, you can't download it over here and then get instructions over here. They have to be from the same place because you have to understand how the information is packaged in the download. Anyways, I digress. This isn't supposed to be about ISTA Plus. This is supposed to be about flushing some brakes. So why don't we go do that? At the moment, I'm at my workbench, and I thought I'd just show you the tools that we're going to use today and the fluids. On the right here, I've got 5 half-liter bottles of liquid moly DOT4 brake fluid. They have a low viscosity and a regular version. I read in the BMW manual that the factory recommends a low viscosity BMW brake fluid, so I chose the low viscosity one. I've got this drain bottle here that will hook up to the nipple on the calipers. Annoyingly, this does not have a tube going down into the liquid. The idea with that is if you remove pressure from the system, let's say you pump down the pedal and then let your foot off, there may be a vacuum that pulls back up through this tube, and you want the end of the tube to be down in the brake fluid so it doesn't pull air. I'm going to have to think about that more. I think it still might work with this, since we're always going to be putting positive pressure into the system via this tool here. This is the Vevor pressure brake bleeder. I picked this up for 80 bucks. Actually, I got it as a gift from my mother-in-law after I changed all the locks on Sam, the pickup truck, and after I also changed out the coil. You actually can put fluid in here, and we'll go through the process. You just charge this thing up to about 30 psi, and then you bring it over and you connect this to the master cylinder using one of these caps here. So it came with a series of caps that connect to master cylinder in place of the normal lid. There's all kinds. I mean, I think this one might actually work for my Dodge. I'm not quite sure because I haven't tried it yet. Let's walk around the car for a minute just so you can see its current status. Now, I have the car up on jack stands and all the wheels are removed. The jack stands are under the jack blocks that are located. There's 4 of them, 2 on each side of the car, and that is the appropriate way to hold the car up. I'm not going to show you here how I jacked the car up and put it on jack stands, but I am going to put a link to a video down below in the description so you can see how to do it, because it's important and it's something you don't want to screw up. You got to be really careful here. So, like I said, all wheels are off. I've already gone through and taken the cap off. I've loosened and retightened all 4 of the bleeder screws just to make sure that they are functional and not stuck. I put a jack under the jack point at the front and the rear of the car, and that's what I used to actually get the car up and get those jack stands under there. But in addition to those 4 jack stands, which is more than sufficient, just to be extra careful, I also placed a jack at the front and the back, and it's not lifting, but it's snugly up against the bottom with a little bit of pressure, just so that there's actually 6 points of contact. And while I had it up here, I used the time to check the brake pads. The front brakes were changed about 9,000 miles ago and the rear about 5,000 miles ago, and they both have plenty of life left still. Alright, so here's where we're going to do our work. The reservoir is under there, and we're going to start there next. So we need to remove this cover here. There's a little clip on either side. This pops right off, and here we have the master cylinder. And we unscrew this lid, and now we just need to figure out which of the lids that we have from the kit will fit on top of that. Now, in the kit, there's actually 3 different ones that'll fit here. I tried them out. There's an E20, A2, and A1. They all seem to be almost exactly the same size. I'm just going to go out on a whim and just think that maybe A2 and A1 are for American, E20 is for Euro. We got some B's over here. Who knows? Maybe that's for Asian cars. I don't know. All I know is this one spins on the fastest, the E20. I will say, and this is interesting, I used to have one of those hand pump pressure bleeders, and the cap worked on my 1975 BMW R90/6, as well as my 325 IS, and now as well as this E92 BMW 328i. So it seems like the Europeans have stuck with a single size that's just for BMW, and who knows today? I haven't looked at a modern car, but it seems to work for all the BMWs I've worked on. So once again, we're back at the car. I've just got a rag here. Don't want to get brake fluid on anything. It is corrosive. I remember one time in college when I just painted a motorcycle tank, and I was all excited, and I was bleeding the front brakes of my motorcycle, and the master cylinder cap was off. A friend of mine walked up to the bike and grabbed the front brakes and squeezed, and brake fluid shot up out of the master cylinder onto my freshly painted tank and put big blotches on the paint job. Brake fluid will eat through paint. Anyway, so cap is off, and now we've put on this special cap from the kit that has a quick connect for air pressure and fluid. And we'll just set this aside for now. So let's add some fluid to this thing. Take off this cap. It's a nice billet aluminum cap with an O-ring. I don't know that this is, having this handle here is, it's nice to have a handle. I just wish it weren't right there. So let's see if I can maneuver around it. Got me thinking maybe I could 3D print a cap. I mean, not a cap. I could 3D print a funnel. That sure is a low viscosity. You almost have to be a gorilla to open this thing up. My goodness. And then I tried to do it with my fingers. No way. Had to use a razor blade to get this seal, right? Which is a good thing. I mean, I don't know, nothing bad's getting in there before I open it. So I'm just going to start with a liter. I think it uses less than a liter for the system, and you need less than a liter to bleed the brakes. Later on, when we do the DSC computerized bleeding, we're going to need more fluid. I'm under the impression that the total process uses about 2 liters, maybe a little bit more, which is why I bought 5 half-liter bottles, or I have 2.5 liters total for this process. So put the top back on, and now we'll move on. For the filling process, I'm going to turn my regulator down to about just over 30 psi. I just want to make sure that I don't have too much pressure in it to blow it out. I don't think that's an issue because there's a regulator on the tank too, but just to be safe, I'm turning it down so there aren't any surprises. First thing we're going to do is connect the air. Notice that this valve is closed, so while this is connected to the system, air can't get in. We also want to make sure this valve is closed down here because this is just an exhaust valve or a drain valve, and we don't want anything coming out of there right now. Okay, so we're gonna open this up, and then I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to use this to regulate the amount of pressure that's in this tank. So let's put the gauge over here where you guys can see it. We want to go up to where it's just that difference between the white and the green is right at just above 2 bars or 30 psi. So let's open up the line. All right, we'll give this a minute to settle out, but for now we'll just go ahead and close that. Thankfully, this tool has a long coiled hose from the tank up to the air fitting. So I'm just going to leave the tank on the ground here and work with it that way. You know, I actually forgot about one thing. and that is need to start to empty or vacate this reservoir. This is messy stuff. All right, I think that's good. And even though we have fluid in the bleeder, pressure bleeder, we're going to start by filling this back up most of the way, just so we don't have any air, or as little air as possible, I guess I should say. All right, and just like most brake fluids I've seen, this stuff is just sort of an off yellow color. ATE actually used to sell one, they had two versions, a blue one and a red one, and so you could tell the difference when you were changing your fluid. But while I realize that this is in a container, you can see how much darker this old brake fluid is versus something that's just a light yellow color. So it's going to be pretty obvious when the good fluid finally starts coming out. So we'll just button this up. And then we'll pop this on, shut off the valve first. And now we are ready to do some bleeding. Now the order of bleeding your brakes is you want to do the one that's furthest away from the master cylinder first, and then the one that's closest to the master cylinder last. So we're going to do passenger rear, driver rear, passenger front, and finally driver front. So I'm sitting at the passenger rear right now, and we're going to hook up the bottle. And again, this is the one that does not have a tube going out down into the bottle, which kind of bothers me, but we'll see if we can make it work. There we go. Now you can see there's probably about 2 inches of fluid down there. All right, I'm going to power up the bleeder. I drained the air from it for a moment, so we're just going to put it back on. So we have the valve closed up at the master cylinder on the unit here. And once again, we're up to 2 bars, a little bit more. I'm going to back it off just a hair. Let's just take a look and see what happens when we work the valve up in the master cylinder. Okay, let's turn it on and see if we see fluid coming up. Yep, it's coming. There it goes. I'm not going to turn it on too high. Let me go look and see what's happening on the other side of the car. So the system's pressured up. Let's see what happens at this end. And it's draining. It's kind of hard to tell how much it's draining. I can see the fluid moving, but can I tell if it looks like new or old fluid? No. I got to do something a little bit different, I think. I grabbed this box down here, and so now that when I crack the valve, the fluid has to push uphill first. Let's get a little bit better there before it goes over the top. And I'm going to go and pump the brakes a few times and see what happens. All right, pumping it once. Pumping it twice. Pumping it 3 times. That looks like clean, good fluid to me. So this has already increased significantly. Zoom down, pan down. There was probably about this much in before, so it's filled up to here. We've moved all of the bad fluid out. So I'll just drain the rest into this, and then we can disconnect it and move around to the other side in the back. Okay, now we're on the driver's side rear. I have things hooked up the same way, and I'm going to go ahead and crack the bleed valve and see what comes out. Alright, so this is kind of a greenish color. It's not the same color as what we put in. I guess it's dirty. So it's kind of hard to see, but it is coming out. And the bottle is slowly filling up. So I guess what I want to do now is just wait until the color is a yellow color. And I can see it turning now. I don't know about you, but I can see it changing color. It's much more yellow now. And notice I haven't pumped the pedal at all. I think I'm supposed to, but I'm confused by that because if I have pressure at the bleeder, why would I pump the pedal? Maybe to dislodge any air in the master cylinder that gets disturbed by the pedal. So I'm going to shut this off. And we'll just again lower this down to let it drain out. Just a quick note about the wrenches used for these bleeder valves. I'm not sure if it's just this car or all three series from this era, but the front of the car, the calipers use an 11 millimeter wrench to unscrew and screw back in the bleeder, and in the back it uses a 9 millimeter. One thing I'll mention, I don't know how clean and clever you are, but I'm a walking disaster. So I'm putting cardboard down in every corner of the car where I'm working, and so far the rear two are both have spots of brake fluid on them. So now we're at the passenger front, which is the third out of four, and we're going to crack this one and see what happens. And you know, that looks kind of greenish. Go give it a couple pumps. It's looking more yellow. Okay, I can tell it's still draining just because this container is moved up. And it's getting lighter yellow. Oh, and I can see the fluid moving now for sure. All right, let's close it down. And stop for a moment. And we're at the fourth corner now. This is the driver's side front. And let's open up this valve. Watch the green fluid come out. Whoops, why is that coming out there? How bizarre. How could that be? There's barely any fluid in the bottle. That's why we put things on cardboard boxes. Maybe it was just to make that point. That's weird though. How the hell? This is just a breather hole. And this thing is not close to full. I can't even imagine how fluid started coming out. Alright, well it's looking pretty good. Just for fun, let's compare. This is the line that's going up to the reservoir. And this one back here is the line that is coming out of the caliper. Now they're both clear hose, no guarantee they're the same, have the same light properties, but the fluid color does look pretty similar. I'm just double checking to make sure. I think we have new fluid coming out now and not the older stuff, which did seem to have a greenish tint. Well, we're back. New day, new problem. I shut it down yesterday because I didn't like the way that this catch bottle was working. The problem with it, and this is what came along with that pressure bleeder, is that this tube goes down to the cap and stops. It should go all the way into the bottle and down to the fluid, and the end of it should always be submerged in fluid when you're using that. And this is because you don't want to suck air back up into the system. Let's say you're bleeding the brakes, you push on the pedal, the brake fluid comes out, and now the brake pedal comes back out. Well, that's going to create some vacuum in the system, and it's going to suck whatever this lining is back up into the line unless you have a partner there working with you to operate the wrench and open and close the bleeder valve. Well, I don't have that. So anyway, this morning I simply designed this little cap on Infusion 360 and printed it out.
Liar! Liar!
Now hold on a second there, muchacho. There was no simply about this. See here? This is the original part. It took 4 tries to get that to work right. You used the first one, but then you had to tape it up with duct tape to get it to work right. And then you had 3 more versions until it finally fit your standard. It took you 4 hours just to get ready to use it the first day, but then you screwed around with it for 2 more. Don't use the word simply around here. Since we're already poking fun, let's just take a moment and look at these little caps. So this is the original one here. Notice that underneath there is no nipple there to, or barb, hose barb, to put a hose down to the liquid. And therefore, if it runs backwards and if there's suction applied to the tubing coming from the brake bleeder, it will suck in air from the bottle once all of the fluid in the line to the brake bleeder is gone. So that's not good. Here's the first iteration, which it worked. This is actually, no, this is not, but it's one of the ones I used when I was actually doing the work on the car. And then I came back and put some little grippy things here on the edge, and I did it again, but this one cracked. And then finally, this is the final product, and I put some rings on the side so I could attach a string or a chain to it and hang it from the car, from the caliper, rather than having to put it up on a box. And I used polypropylene. Polypropylene and I think polyethylene are 2 of the plastics that are resistant to brake fluid. And I put a little nipple on the other side of the cap too, so that I could attach a hose which goes down and it can be submerged in the brake fluid in the bottle. When you print polypropylene, here's a little tip. Put down a piece of packing tape. Packing tape is made out of polypropylene. It's best to put down a piece or 2 of tape so that it covers the entire bed where you're printing. Put down this type of tape, this packing tape, on the bed of your printer. And polypropylene likes to mate to itself more than anything else in the world. So that's the trick. That's how you get the best prints. Let me tell you about one extra step I'm taking. I don't know if it's required, but I'm going to do it for my own personal best practices. First, I'm going to close everything down. The air is out of here. I'm going to charge up this guy. And of course, it's going to come up to just below 2 bars because we had it set like that yesterday. Now notice that this line is still filled with air, and it's not going to discharge until we have this connected. But then we're going to be putting all that air into the reservoir, which isn't a problem really, but I'm just going to bleed the air out of here. I'm just putting a fitting into the line, and I'm just going to slowly try to let it bleed itself out. What is that? There it comes. There it comes, finally. A lot of air in the line too, that's not good. What was that all about, all that smoke and stuff? Anybody knows, leave me a message or a comment. I'm going to try to bleed out this last couple inches where there's air in it. Maybe I'm creating more problems than I am solutions. but at least the line looks air-free now. Now it's time for us to get into the techie stuff. So I'm going to connect my computer up to the car. I've got one end of the plug in the OBD2 port. And the other end of this cable is a USB-A. I'm going to fly it out the window here in a second. And in order for them to talk, I need the car to be on. Not running, just I need the power to be on. And so it is on. I've got a battery charger connected right now because I want to just keep it juiced because I'm going to be using this for a little while. Okay, now we're going to get the computer rolling. This is just a Windows 11 machine. I've got the other end of the cable here that's connected to OBD2. I'm going to plug it in here, and I'm going to start up ISTA Plus. All right, I've got ISTA Plus open, and we're going to do some vehicle management, and we're going to do service functions, and we're going to look for we're going to go and look for brake bleeding, and this is in the chassis and suspensions area, traction control system, which is DSC, and DTC. And then we're going to go for the brake bleeding routine. And if we look here really quickly, it gives us some basic information. Well, first we're going to put a power bleeder on. We're going to put on a catch bottle, open up the bleed screw, and then use the computer to start the bleeding process. After the computer completes its process, we'll step on the pedal 5 times, and then we'll close the bleeder valve and remove the canister, and then it will tell us to move on to the next wheel. So we're going to start with the passenger side rear. So we'll get that up and running here. Okay, all right, so we need to connect the bleeder to the car. That's done. Okay, we got that. Move forward, continue. Put on the bleeder bottle to go open the bleeder valve. All right, we're opening up the bleeder on the passenger rear, and a little fluid is coming through, which is good. And now we're going to go activate the system. Let's continue. And now we're going to press the brake pedal 5 times. And then we're going to close the bleeder valve. Okay, now we're over at the driver's side rear. It's going to crack the bleeder line. Fluid comes through. Okay, let's activate the system. Okay, now we need to press the brake lever 5 times. Brake pedal. Close the bleeder valve. All right, we're over at the passenger front. And just a reminder that the bleeder screw here uses an 11mm wrench. The ones in the rear are 9. Thanks, BMW. Okay, let's see what happens. I'm going to go activate it. Alright, we're connected to the front right. We'll press the brake pedal 5 times. And we are back to close up the bleeder valve. Now we're at the driver's side front. We're going to crack the bleeder valve again. Fluid's coming out. Come over to the computer, hit continue. Pump the brake pedal 5 times. Let's close the valve over here. Great. It's alright, it didn't hurt anything. Remove the bleeder unit, check brake fluid level, read out fault code memory, and clear if necessary. So before we disconnect the plug up at the car, up at the master cylinder, I'm going to drain or bleed the air out of here, just because it'll allow any pressure that's built up in the reservoir to come out. Okay, and now we will remove the cocoon. Well, first we're going to disconnect the line, close the valve. I have a feeling this is still going to make, nope, just it's letting a little fluid out, but not too much of a mess. There's a little too much fluid in there, so we're going to get our baster. All right, let's get this back down to the max level. That was not very graceful. If there is a way to make a mess, I'll find it. Okay, that's all it took actually. Two squeezes. Put the cap back on. And now that everything's back together, the last thing we need to do is put on the cover here. And I failed to mention this tab over here before. Not that it's rocket science. That just needs to sit in there, and then these two, there's 2 clips, one here, one here. Of course, now it's making me look stupid. There we go. Okay, that's in place. I'm going to take it for a test drive and just make sure everything's working well, and then I'll come report back. I just got back from a test drive and everything went well. The brakes were nice and firm. No warning lights came on. Yeah, didn't crash. So I think we're ready to wrap this one up. The last thing that we're going to do is go ahead and reset the service lights via ISTA. This is just the tree that shows all the different control units in the car. We don't need to deal with this right now. We're going to jump into vehicle management again, service functions, and service functions. And then we're going to go down to maintenance and pre-delivery check. And finally, we want to come down to reset CBS condition-based service. We're going to click on that, and we have 3 choices here. The second 2 are informational, and they may actually be the same thing. I don't know why there's 2 of them. The first one is what we want to use, this ABL, and that's where we actually reset the service indicator. So we'll hit display, and then we have to be patient. Don't hit continue, just please wait, please wait, please wait more, please wait more. Okay, here we go. So now we're looking at the various components of the CBS system. It reminds you to change the engine oil, to change the front and rear brakes, to change the brake fluid, and to do the vehicle check. It has some information about the emission inspection. I don't know why it's deactivated here, because we have that in California. We do not have a statutory vehicle inspection in California, so you can drive any rusted up piece of crap down the street as long as it'll pass its emission inspection, which I find kind of funny. Anyway, so we'll go over here and we want to reset the brake fluid. Now right here it says 98%. That's because I've actually already reset it. I also reset the engine oil and the vehicle check because I've done those things. But we click it here, go over to continue, and then it asks you, caution, you have more than 80% available. Do you really wish to perform the reset? Yes, why not? Doesn't hurt anything. So hit continue. CBS reset is being performed. Please wait. CBS contents are being read. And there we go. Now it's at 100% again. So the last step in this is to end the service function.
Well, I guess it's time to wrap up the show. Werner's off doing some of his fancy fun things and couldn't make it here today, so he asked me to shut it down. Who am I? I'm Strike Force, but people call me Strike. I'm Werner's cousin from Beatles. So what would he like me to say now? Hit the thumbs up button, would you? He tries. I know he's not the best, but he does an okay job. Or maybe you even want to subscribe. Would you subscribe if I told you I was going to be in the show in the future? Because I just might. Alright, well, I think we're going to end it here. So long for now.
One of the last things I'm going to mention here, I don't know if somebody else might run into this where you're trying to film using this OBS program like I'm doing here to show this procedure. I kept running into trouble connecting my laptop to the car, and I had been doing it successfully for a few months, and then all of a sudden it wouldn't work anymore. Come to find out that when OBS is running, for some reason the car has trouble connecting to the computer. So what I've had to do, and why I have not been able to show you the startup procedure, is that I first have to hook the car up to the laptop, get it opened up, let it download all the information from the car and get acquainted, and then I can turn on the OBS video system to record my screen. Alright, well, that's going to do it here. We're going to disconnect the car and head on our merry way.